Welcome to Retraction. I'm your co-host, Antoine.
I'm your co-host, Jamie, and we're reversing course through discourse. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the show.
And with that, Jamie, what's on the agenda for today?
I'm just going to jump right in. I'm going to jump. Last episode, you derailed my topics, but I'm bringing it back. And you're going to have to stay with me. They're like loosely connected. I don't know if it's building towards anything, but I was reading a bunch of articles, and you probably have heard of most, if not all of these. So I'm really curious what your thoughts are going to be.
Okay.
I feel like there might be a theme here. I just didn't know how to conclude this segment. So we'll see if we can do it together. Okay. Number one.
All right. Number one. Let's count it off. Number one.
Florida Republican Senator Jason Brodeur introduced a bill that would require bloggers to register with the state of Florida if they are paid for posts about its governor, lieutenant governor, cabinet members, or legislative officials. Did you hear about this?
You need to read that again. I'm not sure I understand it. I haven't read it. I mean, I haven't. All right,
basically,
I don't even understand.
I actually can't believe you haven't heard of this. Okay, so basically, this senator introduced a bill that if you write about the governor, you have to register with the state.
If you write in a blog, or what about the papers?
That is a very interesting question.
I don't want to get ahead. By the way, I don't want. Yeah, if that's blowing your load, let's put a cork back in that one. Amateur blogger, professional blogger, teacher who is trying to teach their class about blogging using a political figure as a template. If that's discovered online by the government, I suppose, so the government has now either enacted or is funding either a private organization or an arm of the government to crawl the internet looking for, and by the way, when we say crawl, I mean, it could be automated, but it still means that somebody needs to check it. It's not, someone has to either get that flag to say that a political official of this state has been written about, and then to cross-check it with, has this person who has done the writing received certification in order to do so. So someone at some point, a human has to come in and say, all right, check this, check that. Does this check out? Or at least audit it at some level if it is automatic, if they are programmatically searching.
Or you turn people in.
Yeah. Or you go the Luddite route and you round up people. Yeah. And it's an oldie but a goodie. You have your. I mean,
how many critical blogs could really bubble to the surface where you're like, all right, this dude, I caught wind of this guy talking trash about me. Are you on my registration list? Nope. You get a fine. So the deal is that the bloggers would have to file periodic reports with the state disclosing information such as who paid them and how much to write these blogs. Failure to report or to file a report would result in fines of $25 a day, up to $2,500. Legislation states that it would not apply to content on a website of a newspaper or similar publication. So that answers your question there. Does that make sense to you?
It makes sense. I'm just worried I just don't understand why newspapers are exempt.
Well, you know what I thought of? Yeah, I mean, I spent about maybe a minute thinking about this, and I can only imagine that it's targeting bloggers and not newspapers directly for some perceived loophole around suppressing a free press, right? Maybe you can't censor the papers, but you can go after bloggers. Does that make sense?
I mean, I hear you. I don't understand why they're not protected.
Otherwise, I got nothing. Otherwise, yeah. I don't know.
I'm not sure why they don't receive the same protections. That's wild to me. I mean, I thought you have the.
Well, you have to be a. Not everyone's the press, right? Aren't those credentials? Don't you have to
Well, there's press credentials for getting into a special, being able to either interview, getting into a press box or a press space, but anyone has the same freedom of speech protections that the press has. No one could come after you for publishing a story in the same way that the New York Times might publish a story.
I don't disagree with you.
No, I'm saying.
I thought I don't understand that either. So I thought it was, the thing is that I cannot think of one entity or person thought this was a good idea on any part of the political spectrum.
Right.
So DeSantis said he doesn't support this bill. Other Republicans came out more.
DeSantis doesn't support this.
No.
So who's doing this bill?
This guy, Senator Jason Brodeur. I don't know, trying to make a name for himself.
What party is he from?
The Republican Party.
His own party is like, what are you doing?
Dude, DeSantis said he doesn't support this bill. Newt Gingrich called the bill insane. Fox News positioned it as unconstitutional. Newsmax called it un-Republican and un-Florida.
Very odd, yeah. Interesting.
So because I wanted to see, like, all right, well, what are the other mouthpieces saying of this party? And yeah, no one likes it. So I just thought it was interesting. And you didn't hear about it. I was expecting you to like have an opinion, but
no, it's been drowned out. Too much is going on, man. Too much is going on. Trump, drag queens, don't banning drag law in like was it Tennessee? I'm not gonna get into a different time. I'm just saying there's a lot. there's a lot. So,
all right. So I'm gonna move on from that one, and maybe this will all come together at some point. But I'm gonna stay on Florida. I'm gonna stay on Florida for a minute. Number 2.
Sunshine States. We get to stay there.
It's getting its light. Isn't getting its stay in the sun.
Is there anything about that?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Maybe you've heard of this one. In Florida, state law requires schools to teach Renaissance art to 6th graders who are typically 12 years old. I repeat, 12 years old. Just keep that in mind. These kids have cell phones. They have internet access. 12-year-olds. This brings us to Tallahassee Classical School, a private institution focused on, and I quote, training the minds and improving the hearts of young people through a content-rich classical education in the liberal arts and sciences. So, this classical education school in Florida just fired its principal for showing Michelangelo's David in class. Why would a classical education school fire someone for teaching classical education? Because apparently
he showed a penis in class.
This 16th century statue made 3 6th grade students uncomfortable, leading to one parent complaining that the statue of David was pornographic, and 2 others said the school failed to notify them that their kids were going to be taught controversial information.
Cool. Okay.
So how do you feel about that?
I mean, these are the times.
Are they?
Here's the thing. Here's the wild thing. All right. We could be up in arms, but it's not like this is the first time, especially in America, because America is it's a prudish country. It's violence is our release. That's our coup de grace. That's our key to revelation.
It's a pretty well-known statue. It's not roped off.
I'm not saying, hey, look, I'm not.
You don't have to be an adult. It's not in the adult section of the museum.
I get it. Look,
I'm sure it's on the cover of books in libriaries. Maybe not Florida libraries.
And I'm sure that there are parents who would go in and complain. Because again, we are, we're very prudish. Sex is not something that we like to talk about or see. And a naked statue.
It's not sex. It's not even sex, though. It's a statue.
500, 600 years old. Sitting in the middle of one of the, most recognized museums in the world for all to see, not hidden behind any type of drapery or with an age restriction. And not just because it's Europe, but because, well, it's and the penis is nothing to write home about. It's not like they went to town on it. It's not like you're looking at
it's not embellished.
It's not a leg, I mean, it's not down the, it's not down this David, Michelangelo's leg. It's like the end of his, ending at his foot. My point is, it's this little tiny grape.
The thing is that you don't even need to describe it. I'm pretty sure everyone knows exactly what this is.
Well, clearly
it's pretty famous.
Clearly they don't. Well, I mean, clearly there are parents who have always thought that Michelangelo's David was pornographic and do not think that it's suitable for their teenager or their 12-year-olds to see that.
12-year-olds.
Here's what I have to ask you. They use that in commercials. You could see that in a commercial.
So I'm telling you, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. And I want to be clear, right? These are 3 parents, right? 3 sets of parents, 3 kids. Yeah. Most of the parents were upset for a different reason. And that's that they were concerned about this firing. One, they were giving no, or I should say, next to no indication that the principal is going to be fired. And then the parents are noticing, they say, a shift in to a more religious language in the school. And it feels like it's adopting their governor's agenda. And some of his
public school.
It is a private school.
Oh, well, they can do what they want.
Can they do whatever they want?
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, they can't flay kids. They can't like put them in boxes and torture them. I mean, they can, they can't enact corporal punishment. I mean, it's within reason, but for the most part, they could teach. Like you could go to high school as long as it maintains its charter. Which again, you're right. Maybe there are certain qualifications the school has to abide by, but it definitely is not curriculum. I don't know if it has to deal with students passing tests or what have you, or a number of that matriculate into higher education. That I don't know about, but as far as it goes, it's not like you have to offer everything. Because like I said, there are private schools out there. Like I mean, there was a school I remember when I was in high school called like the Mountain School, where you spend like 98% of your day outside. You learn farming, agriculture, things of that nature. I definitely am sure there's math and science to a degree, and I think a lot of the science takes place outside. But I'm just saying that they're able to add in, living off the land and various to the curriculum. Doesn't mean that this school can't cancel all Renaissance history. They could do that. They could do that if they want to.
I think that I'm not necessarily arguing that point. That's almost a third point, but I think there are 2 points to this issue, and maybe there is that third one. You tell me. But So one is whether or not you think the Statue of David is pornographic.
I do not.
Right. I mean, there's that, and I don't know. Is it subjective? I don't know what the definition of porn
I don't know what
is.
Pornographic is.
That's what I'm just saying. Like, is a naked body pornographic? I mean, I don't know.
Is it something that you could throw on Pornhub and get a lot of traction on? The answer is probably not. That's what I'm saying. You get a lot of people be like, I don't know why this is here.
So
the comment section will just go wild. Like, probably again more references to the size of the junk, but I'm just saying it won't get a lot of action.
So there's that, but then there's the fact that this principal was fired for this. So you can't just terminate people, right? Like you can't just fire people.
Who terminated the principal? That's the question.
So Barney Bishop, a lobbyist for DeSantis and school board chair who fired this principal, says that the school will be a cutting edge example of the governor's agenda, and that the quote, the whole woke indoctrination going on about pronouns and drag queens isn't appropriate in school, adding parental rights are supreme, which is a separate conversation entirely and has nothing to do with, again, the statue being porn. If this is more
parental rights are what? So say it again. Parental rights are
supreme, saying the parents, DeSantis's vision and what he is now enforcing at this private institution is that parents have complete control over curriculum. And I guess they should have known ahead of time that this was a sensitive topic, content that the parents should have been alerted to ahead of time and had ample time to vet and or censor. And then I did look up to see what the rest of the party was thinking. And so Fox News disagrees that David is pornographic, but agrees with the right of the parent, saying, and it's a bit of a quote here, but I want to read it. In our federalist society, communities make their own decisions, especially about matters affecting children. That's a basic American freedom. Parents get to send their children to charter schools, so they have more of a say over what goes on in the classroom. That's a basic American freedom too. The issue is about whether parents get to set their own standards for what their children see and when they see it, without being laughed at by our cultural elites. The elites have every right to scoff because that's what they do best, and that's pretty much all they do. Meanwhile, here in the real world, conservative parents struggle with the challenge of raising children in a veritable sewer of inappropriate online images, online bullying, and a host of other issues that seem not to trouble our so-called elites. Just a reminder, DeSantis went to Harvard and Yale, but go ahead.
Who are, I mean, they're in liberal bastions, but I mean, let's not mince words here. I mean, all universities have conservative elements to them, so
forget
surprising that so many conservatives come out of them.
Forget liberal and conservative. The idea of elite, the idea of wealthy, well-educated, that is wealthy, well-educated, it's them. Come on.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of, I mean, look, we all know the duplicity with regard to the charter school conversation. This is a talking point. And look, if you're a parent out there and you want to have more control over the curriculum in which your child partakes during their illustrious educational duration, okay, homeschooling is always an option, okay, and we allow that. And I think for a lot of conservatives, especially, that was an option that many of them have taken up. In fact, unfortunately, some senator, I mean, again, there's so many senators in this freaking country. I don't know if it's a state senator or a regular senator, but remember during the days after the latest mass shooting, there's a senator who was like, I homeschool my kids. They were basically asking, how can you support gun legislation? And he's like, well, I homeschool my kids. That neither here nor there in terms of, I mean, that's just morally bankrupt to have that be your answer as a person who is, in charge of people. But back to the original conversation. Yeah, that is an actual option. Okay. It's an option that people can take. Now, the real conversation here is the fact that conservatives want to gut public education. They want it to be replaced by a private entity, a for-profit entity. And this is usually one of the talking points that they use to assuage voters to vote in that private utopia where majority of people will probably stop getting high school educations, middle school educations because they can't afford it. And once again, education will in fact be truly for the elites, which is quite the irony. This is the elites telling you that it's the elitists they're trying to protect you from, while privatizing your schools, making it impossible for you to send your kids to them so that they can remain a walled garden of education, which essentially is the definition. So anyway, I'm just saying, I'm breaking that down. That's how I see it. Usually it's just not about the kids. let's put it that way. It's usually not about the kids.
And
go on.
And what are your thoughts? And those are really good points. It's interesting how good the Republican Party is of accusing others of what they are doing. The idea that parents have complete control over curriculum, I mean, it's hard because it's hard because I understand the extreme that sentiment is protecting against. I'm just not aware of it actually being a problem.
Where parents complain about not having enough control over the curriculum?
No, where the schools are teaching something horrific. I mean, I'm sure it actually does happen.
I mean, look, it's about
especially in terms of, well, I'm trying to be fair here because it's no. Well, let's hear me out. Like from a standpoint of like, whitewashed history or sterilized history, it would be cool for parents that care about teaching their kids what really goes on, so that we could have a better now and a better future. I could see myself wanting more say over that. But then you could have the other argument to say, yeah, well, we fund these institutions who are experts in this discipline to figure that out. We don't micromanage any other part of our society in that way.
Yeah, correct.
So what's the point of having an institution and a department if we're just going to constantly be at odds with it?
Yeah. The answer to that is actually not that complicated for the opposition. The answer is then you do away with it. You do away with the bureaucratic mess that is school boards and public education, and you have a system that is either private or charter, where the community that is most, closest to that school either has more of a direct say. If people want to vote every year, they want to get a little pamphlet that says, hey, what are the kids going to learn this year? And you want to tick off a box and throw that into your education system. I'm actually not that against it. it'll be interesting just to see how stupid people really are.
No,
I mean, at least
I don't want that referendum.
No, I
going
do
on.
because that way I want people. That way people start leaking the ballots or like leaking like the results, and it'll be really interesting to see what people think is the appropriate thing to be teaching children across America. It's not like it's going to get any worse.
I would
say bad already.
I think what I'm getting at. I don't want to do that. I think what I'm getting at is I want our institutions to be in control.
Okay.
I want to inform people how they exercise their right to influence school curriculum in whatever way is possible, and not this weird law where three parents can kind of get a principal fired because there's a law in the books that they have to be notified, and now they exercise this stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, shouldn't there be a different way where parents aren't able to inject that amount of influence over something like this?
Yeah, you mean the normal education system? Normal ways of doing things? This is interesting because now you're bringing up the divide between public and private, and since this law seems to be spread across both, unless this board chair is just applying it and he really doesn't legally have to. No, I think that the if the law is applied against both, I think the recourse you have, like for instance, if you're a public school teacher, you have the teachers union. So even if the board is saying, all right, we think you should have notified the parents, this is pornographic, the union would step in and go, this is taught in 98% of public schools as part of the curriculum, as part of going through Renaissance, Europe, 1782 to which they're required to teach, by the way. I said that exactly. They're required to teach Renaissance art. And exactly. And the union would step in and go, all right, you enact this, you will have no teachers. And then the board goes, okay, we kind of want to keep the school around. So let's broker an agreement here. And this kind of stuff doesn't really go on. But in a private school, you don't have a union. So whoever's in charge of it, whatever they say goes. If they say this is pornographic, you don't have anyone you could go to say, no, it isn't. This is part of the curriculum. You have no legal recourse. You have nothing really. It's a hire at will, fire at will scenario, just like any corporate job. Someone doesn't like you, so be fired pretty easily. If you're in a public school and this is happening, you can petition the teachers union. You can petition your state officials, your local officials. Exactly. Yep. You vote. There are channels that can make sure you vote locally. Right, for the school board and all that stuff. Exactly. And if it's hard to find information about them, trust me, I feel your pain. And but if it's from a private institution, it looks like you could still maybe petition people at the state level since this law is impacting that. But really, all you could do is try and somehow either change schools, or get more funding to your public school to make it viable for you. Something like that, exactly. Yeah. If you're saying as a parent, what can you do? Yeah, as a parent, you could vote with your wallet because you're paying for the school. So you could say, I'm not going to keep paying for this. I'm not going to send my kid here. I mean, that's essentially what they're running afoul. Like that's the danger that the school board is running into, is how many parents. I'm assuming the public school. I'm assuming this private school, because I don't know if it's a religious school, based on some of the comments that also makes a big deal. That's a big deal too. So, but I'm assuming it's outperforming the public school, right? That's why someone would want to send them. It's not always true. Oh, okay. Yeah, because very wealthy areas have very good public schools who have just as good rates of sending kids to college as a local private school might be, if not better. Sometimes, it depends on, again, how much funding the public school is getting. That's fine. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't know if this was that case. I people might be sending their kid to there are many reasons people send their kids to a private school. So a lot of people send their kids to parochial schools because they want an element of religious teaching to influence the classroom, which you cannot get, or at least I put this in quotes, you're not supposed to be getting in a public school, despite the fact that some people think that that's what you're supposed to be getting. It's odd. Many people don't know much about separation of church and state, and it's not their fault because our public officials don't seem to really understand the separation of church and state. They seem to think that because someone put in God we trust on the back of a coin, they never should have been allowed to do that. But because someone was allowed to do that back in the 18th century, They believe that there is no such thing as separation of church and state, despite the fact
no, that came around. I think that was the communist scare when they did the God stuff and our money.
Even worse.
And the Pledge of Allegiance. I think that was all to battle the communists, the godless communists.
That's an even worse situation. It's a really cool piece of history. I didn't know it was so recent, but like I said, because first of all, that should have been constitutionally, like that should never have been constitutionally allowed. I mean,
and they were debating putting the 10 Commandments in courtrooms like a decade ago.
And that got struck down. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand. So I've never understood how the In God We Trust passed the court system. Maybe no one's ever challenged it since.
It's like, once you have it, it's like taking away the guns.
It's like taking away the guns. There's just too much money out there. You'll never stop those corners.
All right. Yeah. That's a fair point too. All right. So I'm going to move on to the last point.
Okay.
All right. So staying on education, I'd like to expand from Florida to the rest of the country, whether it be libraries in Brooklyn, New York, or libraries in Salt Lake City, Utah. In 2022, this country saw a record number of demands made to ban or censor books. 1,269 demands for censorship, to be exact, which is the highest number of attempted book bans since the American Library Association, the ALA, began collecting data over 20 years ago.
But see, that's not fair. 20 years ago, they should have been collecting that a long time ago. I'm just saying, it would not be. There's no way that the book banning uptick in 2022 rivals the book banning when like Huck Finn and all those books couldn't be. What I don't know. I think that's probably.
I mean, does it matter though, Antoine? Does it really matter?
Well, context matters.
Context.
So for like a historian, like, oh my God, this is the worst it's ever been, and you know that it's not the worst it's ever been, but it's.
I mean, 20 years is a long time. 20 years is a long time to say that there's an uptick.
Fine.
I get, yes. And I'm sure if we went back to World War II, you got to there was a lot of
there's a lot
going on there.
Well, yeah. Like you said, well, it depends on what country you're in, but you got to have context. You don't want to like blow it out of proportion.
Listen, it's not like 5 years, 20 years. I'm going to.
I want to know what are the numbers? What are we looking at here? Sorry, you just said it. How many book bannings went on in 2022?
Well, so there's 1,269 demands, right? These are requests, demands they call them. Okay. These demands translate to targeting over 2,500 unique books for censorship, which is a 38% increase from 2021, right? So here are some numbers. In 2021, it was 729 attempts to ban books, up from 156 attempts in 2020. So I repeat, in 2020, it was 100. In 2021, it was 700. And this year is 1,200.
Well, not this year, last year.
Or last year, I'm sorry. Yes. Last year.
Now,
okay.
I always like to look at the numbers in a different light. I like to, to play a little games here. What happened in 2021? COVID. What happened in 2022? Starting to uplift some of the banning on COVID, but still people were still, at home. I just wonder if more people were looking
still
at
the most books. In 20 years though.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm trying to say. I wonder if this is the first time that so many people were stepping foot in a library because there's just nothing else to do.
And they were just like overwhelmed by the imagery. What this pornographic content.
I'm just saying there's a person out there probably who was like, my local library is good and godly. And they thought there would just be 32 Bibles per section, just different types of the Bible from all different places. They walked in, they were like, what is this wizard? Harry Potter? They were like, he's a wizard. What is this book? Witchcraft. It's funny to me. It's funny to have a guy walk into a library, see Harry Potter, and start yelling, witchcraft.
Since when do we celebrate this? Yeah, I get it. All right. So according to the ALA, and a quote, overwhelmingly, we're seeing these changes come from organized censorship groups that target local library board meetings to demand removal of a long list of books they share on social media. So there's a clear objective with these challenges suppress people of color, and of the LGBTQIA plus community.
Yeah, of course.
Okay? So the censorship requests include 550 children titles, 1,604 young adult titles, and 58% targeted books and materials in school libraries, classroom libraries, and school curricula. So I have some examples of the books. Just a couple.
Please. No, please. I would love to hear. I would love to hear what's going on.
Okay, and then that's the end of this that I have. So I have 3 examples. One was "And Tango Makes 3." This children's book is based on a real life story of 2 male penguins who formed a bond at the Central Park Zoo in New York City.
Oh, I know that book.
Well, there you go.
It made a big splash. That book was when it first was released. It was a big talking point. Go on.
Yeah, so after zookeepers saw the pair, the 2 male penguins, trying to hatch a rock as if it was an egg, they gave the penguin couple their own egg. Now, this book came out in 2005, but was subject to 5 bans in the 2021-22 school year.
That's what I thought. Yeah, this book came out there was a big splash many, many years ago.
So all of a sudden,
somebody walked into a library after a long, long time. They're like, I got nothing else to do in this town. COVID has shut everything down. Only the library is available. What are these gay penguins?
It took them 15 years. I mean, to be fair, it took them 500 years, Statue of David, but it took them 15 years with this book.
It just makes sense. It makes sense. Some people are, I'm just saying, I think my theory is starting to gain a little water, that there's just people paying a little bit more attention to what's around.
We Are the Ants, a sci-fi novel following Henry, whose boyfriend has died by suicide. It had multiple best of lists, but then made the banned list in the 2021-2022 school year. And Monday's Not Coming, a Black teenage girl goes missing, and her disappearance is never investigated. The book is based on real-life missing Black girls who fail to receive attention from media or police, published in 2018. It was pulled from classrooms and school libraries in 2022 for covering racism, justice, and poverty. Okay, so I tried there was, like I said, like 2,500 titles. I pulled out a few that kind of covered a large area, but it's concerning.
Yeah, book banning is always concerning.
I didn't understand.
The restriction of knowledge is always concerning.
Well, my thing was, I knew that this was a thing, I think, very conceptually. I never really gave it a lot of thought. And then when I saw these numbers, I was like, holy cow, like that's crazy. And then when I was reading about the books, I was like, holy cow. And I guess my question is, and maybe it's a really naive question. You might come back with me and say, oh, it's for this reason, dummy. Why do we have a process for banning books?
Do we have a process? I don't. Is there an actual?
You go to these board meetings and you petition. You make a demand. Yeah. But then they ban them. Then they do it. Oh, so that's the process. I guess you go to the board meeting and you demand it. They ban it, and then they ban it.
Well, I mean, it's a local library. It's taxpayer funding. It's the voice of the people. If there's enough people who want to, not have something in their library, for better or worse, that's why democracy that's democracy. It's not. It doesn't always go the way you want it.
That's a fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point.
It sucks.
I wonder if it is a matter of
knowledge and intellect, but even knowing something, here's the thing, even knowing something that you don't necessarily agree with is still important. Knowledge, it's not, I don't want to give ratings to Fox News. I don't watch Fox News, but the thing is, I should still pay attention to what's going on at Fox News. You should still knowledge, for knowledge for knowledge's sake in general. It's just there's never going to be something you will absorb that you didn't know before that will make you worse for wear. Everything, no matter whether you agree with it or disagree with it, if you're absorbing it, that's still progress. That's still moving forward. That should never be shunned. That should not be something. You shouldn't be hiding things from people, regardless of whether you agree with them or not.
Yeah. So you're kind of saying two different things, though, right? You're saying that.
Oh, am I?
Well, you're saying that you should have access to information.
Correct.
And you should want to have that access, but we also have the right for a few to restrict access to the majority
to information because we live in a democracy. That's correct.
And then how come these aren't protected by like a First Amendment right? Because it's one thing for no one to be taking these books out and you're like, these are collecting dust. I could put other titles on here that'll get some play. But if someone's going to them, to these meetings and saying these were curated by professionals, but I have an issue with these. Here's my list. I demand that these are banned, and then it happens. I don't understand that.
Well, here's what I would say to that. Here I was going to say that the government should have like the Library of Congress. They archive books and not books, obviously books, but I meant like great works. And I believe they digitized them, but they digitized them from the original bindings. But that's not the public library is still a federally funded endeavor, correct? It's like the post office. There are no private public libraries. It's
I think those are government run. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying it's not just. Is it just the state, or does the federal government give any money to libraries? That's what
I don't know. I don't know. There might be a grant system or something.
Even if the states were, even if through the states, if the federal protected libraries to say that all libraries must have access to all written record, that would be a cool law, actually, because that would here's how that would work. All libraries must share in a digitized repository for all written record, which includes pornographic and what have you. Now the censor could be on the age limit, like where the restriction on age. So you could say, all right, we think in this town that no one under the age of 15 should be viewing this type of content. So you age restrict it.
Well, you get like movie and music type ratings then.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Sure. If you want to. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. And, but the thing is, it's still available. So you could not ban it. You can never say that no one can ever see this, but you can age restrict it. Hey, if you want to age restrict something to saying only people over 98 can do it, to be facetious, which I can see this, that's a DeSantis move. I mean, I know he would pull that crap. Go for it. You want to ruin it. Fine. Ruin it for people. But I damn well hope that someone comes with their 98-year-old grandparent to read out loud in the library daily. It's just like they got nothing else to do. They got their faculties in order. You read with a bullhorn in the library. You read this banned book. That aside, I do wonder if there could be something like that, because you're right. I think the current system is broken because you're letting democracy supersede the access to information. But I wonder, is the access?
Is it democracy though? Is it democracy when you have, like, I understand that it's. Well, let me say this out loud, and then maybe I'll walk it back. But is it democracy when you have this concerted effort that's kind of violating the spirit of why that is there? Like, you have this group who is clearly doing the bidding of a political party.
Yeah.
And they're going around professionally, in a sense, to these local areas that I'm not even sure they live there, just to ban books across the country.
Well, I assume
and that's
they live there. I mean,
or they're recruited. Yeah, but it's some kind of effort to say that. I mean, one of the things was like the woman didn't even have kids. Like, it was just some like person who was going and banning books for kids.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
It's like that's her job.
Silence their voice. I mean, they're still a member of the
community. But like, how? I guess, is it that they show up with like a petition and signatures? Like, why? Just because someone speaks out,
they're incensed because they've sat at
But is it that one person said something and no one was here to challenge her, so they're good to go, and most people are at their jobs and working? And like, at what level did they really have more people that said no than people lived in the town or city? Do you know what I mean? Like,
even if they had
what democracy in that sense?
Well, you can participate in democracy through your inaction. What is it? It's like silence is permission. I'm truncating the kind of famous phrase for that, but yeah, it's like silence is complacency.
Yeah, but you can't. Yeah, but people are working. You can't.
Yeah, I know, but after the fact. I mean, are people lining up at the board now saying, "Hey, why'd you ban these books in record numbers?" Are there people who are like, are you seeing a sizable countermeasure to this inaction? If you're not, Well, then the people, even if you're too busy, then you're too busy to really. You're like, this isn't enough for me to care about.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. It just sounds like a terrible loophole that we need to close. And with anything,
still
you can't have
like
people
democracy.
sneaking things through that maybe in isolation are not enough for you to sacrifice your hourly wage or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But then over time, all these little things, you're like, well, what the heck, man? Like,
well, I mean, look, you could vote on. I mean, yeah, maybe if you're going to ban books, there needs to be some sort of regulation that it has to be put on a ballot for everyone to vote on. Essentially, it can't be done in a town meeting on a Monday. Maybe something like that. There are many ways, I guess, if you wanted to fight this. I
feel like, and this may be, if this is the way that you do things, if this is the way you do things, and it could be book banning or it could be anything else. I do have an issue with that, because then the system, the process is not set up for usability. It's not a matter of, if you cared more, you would have reacted, or if you cared more, you would have shown up in the first place. People do have a lot going on.
Yeah.
You're right. And again, one thing at a time. It may not be showing up on your radar, but then when it's too late and you've lost so much, I don't know. There's something weird about that. These little chipping away. Yeah, it's definitely
the frog people.
Yeah, it's the boiling the frog thing.
It is. But you're absolutely right. I mean, this is how it's like happening across the board. I mean, how do you think? I mean, that was the whole abortion fight. It was a slow boil over decades. And then one day people were like, holy crap, the court is in a position we didn't think was possible. So.
Yeah, and then again, maybe this could be unique, or this could be one of many things that can happen this way. But if that's really how it is, and it's just the people who have the time to show up to these meetings, they're the ones that, I think we have the tech now. I think it's time to change that, because I bet that if people had the information, ahead of time, and they had a way to exercise their right that didn't require them to, I don't know, I go down to the courtroom or take time off work or whatever it is. Like, so there's some people that just can't. A lot of people that can't do that for a lot of different reasons. You have a job.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a single parent. Maybe you're got mobility issues. I don't know. I had 3 off the top of my head. There's a lot of reasons why that would be a difficult thing for you to do, other than just having the access and notifications that these things were happening. I don't know. It's rubbing me the wrong way.
It should.
I don't like it.
It should rub everyone the wrong way. Now, the solution that I would imagine would be, get that sweet big library going. That big library money. Hey, Jamie, I hear you're a representative. I'm from Big Library, from the library lobby. Say that 3 times fast. Library lobby. Library lobby. That's where I'm from.
I don't need a lobby.
3
money.
printings.
I get taxed.
First
I pay my
editions.
taxes.
Virginia Woolf. Just make sure none of these books get banned. How about that?
I pay my taxes. And we've talked about stuff like this before, even with like Disney stuff, where where they have like those little notices in the beginning of the animations now, and we're like, that really doesn't cut it, right? You need that. You need a more academic setting, and I wonder if it could be the same way with some books that should legit be cautioned against it for a more mature audience, right? I don't know how you handle that. Little plaque on the shelf.
Yeah, like I said, you can
can
age restrict areas.
But I think that's fine, right?
That's fine. I wish that it didn't happen. I wish there was a way that we could figure out how not to have it happen, considering we've been annoyed by it since, again, like the banning of Huck Finn and all those other things in like the 50s and 60s or what have you. Again, access to information, age restrict. That's fine, but you shouldn't be allowed to ban books out of your library. That's crazy. We know it's crazy. But we live in crazy times. People just be crazy, Well,
it seems like there's a lot of restrictions going on. You got being fired. You got books being banned.
It's called conservative.
You got bloggers being restricted.
It's the definition of being conservative. You are restricting access to the future. You're trying to maintain a status quo. That's the point. You want to reverse the clock. You're trying to get back to a period that ideologically exists only in your head.
All right. Well, that's that.
That's good. I like it. I'm just surprised that you got through that over the Tennessee, like, banning public drag performances.
You can bring that up if you want.
I mean, I got nothing else for it other than that's the story. I'm just surprised that you got this out of, you know, the banning of books over the banning of drag. I'm just surprised you were.
Well, I did the Florida education. It was like a whole thing.
I see.
There.
It's all Florida. Okay. I see.
It was the blogger in Florida, then Florida education, then national education through the book banning. I mean, how many segments did you want me to do? I could have done 4, could have done 5, could have done 6.
I see. Look, you had a theme, and I didn't catch on to that theme. It was thematic, and I get that now. I get Tennessee does not make sense. It is banning, but it does not a full circle. You know,
it wasn't Florida. It wasn't education. I couldn't tie it together.
I don't know
other than ban.
Miami would just light the place on fire. If there's between that and what's the beach? What's that beach area in Florida?
Miami Beach.
No. Sorry, it's like Martha's Vineyard, but for the Floridians. Key West. That's it.
Oh God, I don't think that's a good.
Oh, Key West
comparison.
is good. Key West has got.
I've been to West. I don't know if it's like Martha's Vineyard.
No. I was just referring to a vacations place that is difficult to get to.
Okay.
You see, that's the theme. That you see.
Oh, that's the commute. Okay, that's the connection.
Is
in case anyone
the beaten path that people like to vacation that take hours to get to. That's where it is.
I'm sure I was the only one who didn't make that connection.
The Hamptons, would that have been
the Martha's Vineyard of Florida? What is it again? Key West.
What's the Hamptons in Florida? Key West.
You know, because you have to travel to it. Yeah. Okay.
And vacation. That's 2 connecting points. More than Tennessee. So I get that.
That's funny. All right.
Anyway, yeah. That's all from my side then.
Oh, yeah, you're good?
I think I'm good. I'm good for today.
All right. Well, folks, we have new content every week. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube, Twitter, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Thank you for your patronage. And with that, Retraction out.